there, and welcome to this edition of the SoCal VW Scene on the YouTube channel of the same name. We appreciate your attendance, and we're happy you're here to talk about all things VW. We have a couple of special guests today. We'll get to those in a little bit, but I'd like to welcome you and to apologize for the delay because we had technical bullshit 2 weeks ago. And it's amazing how with all the electronic gear there is, that some small little thing can ruin a podcast. So we apologize, but we're really happy to be with you and glad to have you here.
Super happy to be here. Absolutely. Thank you guys for coming on, and make sure you subscribe so you know all the latest updates too. Happy New Year, by the way. I think this is our first show since the start of the new year.
Yeah, we are new into the year now, even if it is almost through February. There are a lot of things that have happened already this year on the VW scene. A couple of them were the Deeks cruise into the new year. That was cool. I know I, like a lot of my friends, were just dying for a reason to drive our Cowlick cars. And something in the San Diego scene that's already happened.
Yeah, actually, so we had the San Diego Air Cooled Club puts together a New Year's cruise, and they raised, I think, donation wise, they do a donation to one of the food banks, and they collected like 500 pounds of food. So that's super awesome. Proud of them, and I love that they do that every year. So if you haven't ever done the New Year's cruise in San Diego, look up the San Diego Air Cooled. They do that. Also, we did a president's breakfast in San Diego. So there's now, I think the count is 8 clubs, but 6 of the presidents and some VPs got together. We had a breakfast, and we break out our calendars and we talk about the year. So it's pretty exciting. We get together with Mission Avenue Cruisers, Wolfpack, my club, the San Diego Locals, San Diego Air Cooled, Volks Chancellors actually comes to the table. And we have a new club in San Diego, the VW Pushers. And so it's an Oceanside club. So VW Scene is definitely growing in San Diego. So that's super fun. And wasn't there also the Triple Crown Awards?
Yes.
Yes.
I was going to talk about those. We did have the Triple Crown Awards, and I'm now sitting next to last year's Powder Puff champion, which, as long as I'm on Powder Puff, I would encourage all you people out there, if you have a girlfriend and you drag race your VW, and you should give her an opportunity.
If you have a daughter who's coming of age to drive, we love the youth and the sport. Absolutely. We're just talking to Corey about his daughter taking up the little race cars in the go-karts and the K1 speed. We just did this and I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
But hey. Yeah, there's actually this year in the Powder Puff, the one of the girls in the top 5 is a 17-year-old, 18-year-old from San Diego who started a couple years ago. It was her first full season. So young and excited, bring them out.
Yeah, come on out to Irwindale. The next one is March 12th, the Hot VW's Drag Day.
2 weeks.
And yeah, get a chance to compete. The other gals in the class are very welcoming, and everybody gets along real well. We also have some pro classes, and most of you that are in those already know what those are all about. I will, however, mention that Outlaw Turbo has a record purse for this year's season over the 3 race series, plus the final. They have over $10,000 to pay out in Outlaw Turbo, which is pretty cool. We're back to paying out $1,000 a race in super stock. And my favorite new class, which is really rocking things, is Real Street.
I love that class. They're so exciting.
They have to go out and run for a 20-mile run.
Everybody fills up at the same time. And they have to pump gas. Everybody goes and does their run, and then they come back and they race their cars. And it's super competitive, and it's a huge field. And David's just rocking it too. Yeah, I just love to see him out there.
He calls himself David Volkswagen Ruiz. That's last year's champion.
Congrats.
And he looks poised to do it again. Although Sean Gears has a car now. The Brothers Machine Shop has a car they're bringing. So there'll be a lot of competition. So even if you don't do any of that, come on out and spend the day with us and watch what's a great event.
Well, yeah. Right. So if you have a car you're building and you want some inspiration, or you want a car and you want some inspiration, or you like the cars and you just want to come watch, come to the drag races, support the local events. It's super fun.
Yeah. You can be a car show guy and sneak over and watch the drag racers.
We won't tell.
So the Deeks, besides having their brand new Welcome to the New Year cruise, they had their first carbs and coffee event over at the Orange Detail shop in Tustin or in Orange, Detail Garage. And that's a fun deal. This last one was enormous. There was even a couple of old Willys, a 40 Ford. A lot of American hot rod guys are kind of showing up too. And we like them. We like all kinds of cars.
Oh, but they get a little enamored with us, and I love it. Whatever, and then they come over, and there's Volkswagens are just everybody loves them. So I think there's a lot of like, oh, I had one of these. Everybody's got a story. So I think that's fun. Bring everybody together.
And if you're someplace where it's really cold, let me tell you, this is a really cold California. I think of it as the frozen tundra of California. I came out this morning looking like a polar bear because temperatures in the 40s are unusual for February in California. But enough of the weather report.
It's too cold.
Anything else about what's happened this year yet?
You know, we got good stuff coming up. We did in San Diego, we did just a sort of an informal Pacific Islander Beer Company, car show season kickoff. And we had, I don't know, 25, 30 Volkswagens come out and hang out with us. And I think that's a good sign for what's coming this season. And we're going to have a lot of events, a ton.
Pacific Islander Beer Company is a great place.
Mm-hmm.
They do a really nice job. And I'm going to get on my soapbox again about sponsors and participating at shows. They don't make a lot of money in these shows. They do them because they love doing it. But we need to support them because if we don't support them, pretty soon they're gone.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I've been talking to some of the other car folks in San Diego, and attendance is down. And so we need new generations up. We need more people just come out. Like it's a great sport and a great resource. So we love them.
Bring out your friends, bring out the other people that say, I would really like to have a Volkswagen. Well, come on out.
Yep.
Find out. They're out there. I always tell my friends, if you're thinking about buying a VW, do it now.
I know 2 people who've gotten one recently that I've been like, oh, the prices are getting a little bit more reasonable. So that's good.
Don't wait because they'll go the other way.
Yep.
All right, guys, we've got a few questions already starting to come in. And so this one's for Ron from Jim Dix asking, is Ron coming to the Volksworld show?
Yes, Ron is coming to the Volksworld show. I'm coming along with Dean Kirsten and Dave Andrews, and it's all about the A and B modified compact racers. And the Volksworld show is a fantastic show. It's one of the larger ones outside of the European bug-in that you can go to in Europe. And yeah, I would encourage anybody, if you've never been to the Volksworld show, it's at a horse track. It's on multi-levels. The cars are broken up by different groups, and the displays are awesome. And it's a great show. It's a lot of fun.
That's going to go on my list. I'll have to get to that one soon.
Yep. It's one you got to make. You also got to come to the European bug-in. That's not till 2024, but it's an amazing show too. I wish that we could have a regular bug-in like we have here and have the kind of participation that they get in the European bug-in.
It's like our bug-in on like super steroids. I had never been. It was a bucket list for me. It was amazing. And just everywhere you went, just everywhere you looked, over the hill, through the woods, they were everywhere. It was really, really great. Really great.
Yeah, I want to mention a couple of events that are coming up. April 15th is the Spring Fest at Wolfsburg West, put on by the Inland Valley VW Club. They do a really good job. And hopefully Hot Dog Fred will be there. And I help him out. I get to be the worst help. And we spend a good time. On May 4th, the 7th, the 4th through the 7th is the Featherly Park Spring Picnic. That's put on by Ryan. I can't remember Ryan's last name now, but Ryan, you do a great job. That's at Featherly Park. That's not far from me in Yorba Linda. It's just off the 91, and it's between Imperial and
you wouldn't know it's there. You're like in the middle of the city.
The
and you get off.
It's not scripted, folks.
So it's not a dress rehearsal.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of things going on, and I urge you, if you're a VW freak, like I think most of you are that listen in, support in any way you can. Now, I know if you're in Europe, that's a little tough to do, but if you're going to make one trip from Europe to this part of the world, you want to come in June. You want to come in about the second week of June, You want to be here for the VTO camp out in Black Star. You want to be here for the Prado show.
All the open
even though it's not
houses.
at Prado anymore.
No, it's Prado, not Prado.
Yeah. You want to come to not the European, but the American Bug-In.
Yep, that's a big show. And that whole week, like it's just nonstop. If you can come for like some of the events, you definitely would not be you would be entertained. You would not be bored. Lots going on in June. Also, coming up soon is Silverado's March 31 through April 2nd. And then in Arizona, is it the last Bugorama out there they're going to have on April 2nd?
That's April 2nd, I believe, on the Sunday.
Yep. And then in San Diego on the 22nd, April 22nd, we have a Kobe's swap meet, huge swap meet in San Diego. They rope off a whole section for Volkswagens. There's Volkswagen swap, there's Volkswagen show, there's awards, there's raffles, super fun down there. So make sure you put that on your calendar. And if you're in San Diego and you want to come out and support the Wolf Pack who helped put that on, I know you hate it. We're doing a club crash on April 14th, which basically means all the clubs get together and support the person or the event or the club that's having the event coming up. So April 14th, we'll have a club crash. Reach out to me if you want more details on that. But lots of stuff coming on. And then I looked at my calendar going out, and we don't have enough time in this show to go over what I know is coming down this year. So we'll have to update it the next one.
Another show. We would like to think that we would be doing this at least every other month, and with the potential of end up doing it monthly. I would like to be able to tell you when the DKP Cruise Night in Garden Grove is, but we have not settled on that yet. We have a meeting coming up March 5th, and hopefully there'll be more details coming, and they'll show up on our Facebook page.
What about the Classic? Do we know a date?
The VW Classic is still on hold. They cannot get a date. I've been talking to them in June. There's some talk about doing it in May. June is the ideal month, and they might have to put it off. If they really want to pick up the European crowd and people that come, again, June is the month to come to SoCal to attend a myriad, like that word, of events that will be happening. So,
for sure.
Yeah, I think now we would like to go to our interviews. We would like to introduce our first guest, half owner of the Studio B / Schley Brothers Museum.
Hi, Mark
Schley, the elder of the Schley brothers. And we're happy to have him here. And I'd like to start him off by talking about something that we're both familiar with. That's what was called in Hot VW's magazine, flying VWs. That means guys that have crashed VW race cars. And Mark is kind of a pioneer on that. He's one of the early guys to do that. He did crash the Lightning Bug. So I'm going to let him tell you the story of it, and then we'll talk about some other things.
Welcome, Mark.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you. And thank you for hosting us here.
Oh, you bet. Right. The first flying Volkswagen. That was me. Hey, I've heard you've done that 3 times. Now.
Yes, I'm a frequent flyer.
A frequent flyer.
Oh. Did they punch your card when you? Yeah.
Yeah,
No, but I turned in my pilot's license. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was the first one. That was October 26th in 1969.
Wow.
53 years ago.
That's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while. Leading up to this is bug-in number 3.
Wow.
And prior to this, of course, Paul and I with the Lightning Bug 1 been racing NHRA and HRA, and they had weight classes and stuff. But the bug-in was one of those deals where you could pull all the way. All we want to do is go fast.
Run what you brung.
Right. So we did something a couple nights earlier at Dino Dinosaurs. We pulled out the roll bar. Now this roll bar we had was right behind the seat, just one loop, and it supported the back of the seat. So we took that out for saving weight. So fast forward to Sunday, it's about 10 o'clock in the morning, and Paul and I flipped a coin, and I got the first run. So we were taking turns. So
without a roll bar.
Without a roll bar. So I lined up against a VW bus, which was probably a 21, 22, 23 second thing. At the time, we were running in the 12-second bracket.
Yep.
And so I go on down, I'm in the left lane, and just maybe 20, 30 feet before the first mile-an-hour light, it jumps to the right. It jumps, changes lane. And I go through the lights on the right-hand side lane. And luckily the VW bus was a couple miles back.
Yeah, it was waiting.
So anyway, we go through and then we bring it back to our pit area and we jack up the front and start looking at things. And we start tightening a few things down. And of course, when you're young, you know, you're Superman.
Yeah, yeah, 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Yeah, those accidents happen to someone else. They'll never happen to you. Well, so we hurried up and got back in line. At that time, Orange County Raceway had, I think, 16 lanes at the time. And they had one lane set up for the hot Volkswagens, the gassers and stuff. So what they would do, you just get in that line. And then when you get a couple, 3 or 4 cars, they would pull those people out, those cars out for the spectators and stuff to keep them occupied. So it's going to be Paul's turn. Well, Paul's off walking around talking to some people, and all of a
We
sudden,
can't find him.
yeah, all of a sudden they holler, "Hey, Schley's, go!" So I jump in it, and I'm doing my burnout and stuff, and then Paul gets there. So they put me in the left lane again, and I'm by myself. So I take off, and same spot. I'm about 20 feet to the first mile-an-hour light, and it jumps to the right. Same deal. I mean, instantaneously changes like 20 feet over.
Wow.
And my mind said, you know what? I'm going to slide along the Armco barrier. I'm going to tear up some fenders on the right side, but I'm going to be all right. Well, then all of a sudden, it turned sideways. Now, my eyes closed. I don't think I closed them on purpose, but they closed. And so you could see from the starting line the side of the car. And it's sliding sideways towards the finish line. And so I'm hearing, you know, the rubber noise, you know, the screeching of rubber and stuff.
Terrible sounds.
And so then all of a sudden, absolute silence, nothing. And you could hear the wind blowing and stuff like that.
Because when he took off.
Oh, yeah.
And so she goes up, you know, like that, upside down. And she came down on the guardrail on the left-hand side at the A post. Now, your A post is the front windshield post there. And it hit, about 12 inches back. Now, if I had the roll cage in, I would have been sitting there strapped in. This thing would have come down and I wouldn't be here today. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But what happened? So the top comes down, hits me in the helmet, pushes me down in the seat, which is not supported.
So it
the
goes.
seat back breaks. And now I'm kind of like you lean back in a chair. I'm laying back in the back of the car. My feet are up there where the steering wheel is. Now the top of this car literally is about this high off of the floorboard. It just all came down. Photos you see is after it's been bent up to get me out. So it comes down and it hits that first wall and takes it down, the guardrail. And my eyes opened up. And dust and dirt is flying around. And again, I'm on the dirt side. I'm off the track. And what went through my mind right off the bat is, oh my God, I'm still alive. But if this thing doesn't stop, I'm going to get hurt. And I'm getting thrown around inside. You can still see all the stitches on my shoulders and my arms. And I got beat up in there pretty good. And so I'm looking at my feet, and the steering wheel, of course, is down on the floor. And I look at that and I said, well, all I got to do is lean forward and hold on the steering wheel. Of course, that's a physical impossibility.
Yeah, right.
That's at my feet.
You still got seatbelts.
Yeah, right.
I'm in the back. And so it started, so it's bouncing. So what it did, in the very beginning, it's rolling sideways. And then it decided to turn around and go nose over tail. Now, on the return road down there is a gentleman, Mel Garbett, with the Dune Buggy supply car.
The purple, I think it was a lift-off body or
Right,
something.
it was, yeah. So he was going to tow down to the starting line, but when he saw that I came out, they stopped. He had a pickup truck with somebody driving that, about a 10-foot rope, and then the car, his race car. So he stops right there, and they get out. Well, here I come. And now all of a sudden, I'm over on the road where he's at.
Oh, man.
And both he and the driver of the truck, they hit the ground. And I'm bouncing along, and Mel told me later he knew I was going to wipe him out. And
Oh, wow.
luckily, I bounced once right in front of the truck. I cleared the truck, the 10-foot rope. I cleared his race car and came down just behind his car. Unbelievable. Otherwise, the Lord only knows what would happen.
Yeah, VWs don't fly very well.
Yeah.
They may be shaped like an airplane wing and they may go up in the air, but when something like that happens, you go from driving to riding. You're along for the ride.
That's it.
So you're also pretty big in IndyCar and stock car racing and developed a lot of friendships. You tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, but real quick,
Yeah.
I want to finish up on that.
Okay,
Is that after that, driving from our home in Costa Mesa to Dino Dinosaurs in our VW Bug,
Right.
a little bit of wind would hit you, and I'd be white knuckling on that street.
Yeah, I bet.
Honest to God, I was scared. It scared
What
me.
made
pretty good.
what made it jump? Did you figure out what was wrong with it? Why did it jump lanes?
Axle problem up in front.
Got it.
So about 6 months later, I decided, well, I'm going to have to drive this thing again.
Oh, yeah.
So Big Hodge, one of our crew guys, his brother went with me, just the two of us. Paul, I think, was up at Loyola University studying, and I went on a Saturday. Now, this is Fontana, which is not the Fontana now.
Right.
This was a real small track out in the middle of nowhere, which I figured hardly anybody was going to be there. So I went, and my first pass was a long burnout stage. Along first gear, I hit second gear and then shut it off.
Rolled out of it, yeah.
And then rolled on down. So the second pass, I went first gear, second gear, then hard into third gear, and then shut it off in third gear. So then I said, okay, so my last pass, I went all the way through. I drove it to the very end of the mile an hour light, hard on it. And the one thing about that, we went the quickest and fastest at that point that we'd ever gone. It wasn't the driver. It was
The car worked really well.
I was working on the car. So
Right.
I proved that, okay, I could do it and I wasn't scared anymore. And so I, got on that horse and was able to do it.
Yeah, we
Yeah, you
actually
have
don't
to.
call it getting back on the horse. It's getting back in the cockpit.
Yeah, because you flew.
Yeah, you asked about Indianapolis. Well, very likely, Paul and I met a gentleman by the name of Tom Bigelow, who's USAC winningest sprint car champ, midget car driver and stuff, and invited me back to Indianapolis. Tom was in 9 Indy 500s, and so through the years I've been.
Yeah,
I've
this
actually-
started a while ago.
Yeah, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Been doing this for 40 years. Matter of fact, we invited you back
Yeah.
with two of your
Yeah.
two boys.
Yeah,
And
we had a wonderful time too. Thank you.
the lucky thing is when we'd have people come back for the 500, they come back for a couple of weeks, and I would be able to get them the badges where they can go where other people can't go. Yeah, you got up in the tower. You got the
It was
A.
a deluxe setup.
Nice.
I
Very
was
nice.
able to do that with people that would come in. So we've been associated with Bigelow for 9 Indy 500s, and best finish was fourth, couple sixes, finished every race, which
Yeah.
was
Big race, big
which
deal,
was-
the Indy 500.
which was quite a deal. And then because of that, then Tom was in NASCAR. So then of course, wherever Tom went, I was going and part of and sponsoring Tom and stuff like that. And we did NASCAR, we did Indianapolis. NASCAR now, one of our very good friends drives the 43 car used to be Richard Petty out at racing. It's
Right.
Eric Jones, and a good friend of ours. Actually, as everybody knows, Paul and I road raced the Dodge Viper and the Corvette.
Yep.
And because of our Viper, he went out and bought a Viper and he had it for about 6 months and then traded it back in. But any event,
I've been for a ride in that Viper. It's quite a machine.
so I'm still hooked up with the NASCAR stuff, and that's what a life. Paul and I have been so fortunate.
Yeah, you guys have done a lot more than just VW stuff. So well, and that and the business, the Schley Tools business, that's been a fantastic deal. And now
Right.
younger Schleys are running the show, and that's very cool. The other thing I'd really like to touch on, and I have a great deal of respect for, is your work with the women's cancer research.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're
That's-
involved very big. Is that
Oh,
at
that
Hogue
was-
or?
That's been going on for over 30 years. Had a girlfriend that, and I do a lot of, as people know, a lot of speeches.
No.
And very well.
As somebody who had the microwave taken away from me, I got to tell you, I don't know.
The tour, yeah, the long tour, and the short tour at the Slate Museum.
Yeah.
On women's cancer. And as I tell the gals that we work in the area below the belt, you ladies have a lot more parts down there than we do. Unfortunately, cancer.
It's
is
not
around
not
us.
very friendly.
Yeah.
So going back over 30 years ago, Dr. John Micah, who's a cancer doctor, very good friend of mine at the time, we would go to these fundraisers, and supposedly they were raising money for cancer, women's cancer research, or just cancer research.
Hmm.
Well, we found out that some went, but not much. And so John was, he and I through 3 years talking about this, that we can do this better. And so we're at one of these meetings, and John comes up. He said, "Guess what, Mark? I got 6 doctors lined up, and you're the guy to put it together." Just like that. You're the guy to put it
He
together.
was right.
Well, 30 years later, we're going strong. I got to tell you, real side thing on that is that we only have 3 paid employees, which is unbelievable. I've got a lot of, as they say, my girlfriend, I start crying on this part, talking about my girlfriends. But any one time I got 25 to 30 gals going through trials and stuff. And these gals are my girlfriends. And, but we do this, talking about fundraising and stuff. The women's cancer, breast cancer.
Susan Komen.
Yes,
Susan B.
G.
Komen.
Komen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're very good. They do a lot of good stuff. But we found out, and this is a government statistic, 6 cents out of every dollar, or 6%, goes towards research, breast research in their case.
So where do people find out about what you're doing?
Well, we are 90 to 95%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's so
Right.
spectacular.
Yeah. I was the first president of the board of directors. We don't get paid. The doctors don't get paid. Matter of fact, when money gets low, we write checks. And that's how we're committed to this. And we've been doing very good stuff. But it's Women's Cancer Research Foundation. There's a couple online that are around the United States. Ours is in Newport Beach or Laguna Beach. It'll be under Laguna Beach. But we in California here.
Yeah.
Laguna Beach, California. And
That's an important factor, that 95 cents
Yeah.
out of every dollar.
Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's
I've worked in nonprofit. That's fantastic. Thank you for everything you guys are doing.
And, at any one time, we have a lot of people that donate time and stuff like that. It's very, very proud that I was able to do that.
Well,
Yeah.
we're happy to have you up here. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Because
Well-
we got a little more time for you, Mr. Schley. So
Throw something at me. One thing, if realize this is going around the world. You ever get to Southern California,
there you go.
you got to come on over here. We're in Orange, city of Orange.
Easy to
and,
get to.
Easy to get to. It's a small 10,000-foot garage.
Yeah.
Started off life as a
Studio
garage.
B.
That we work on our race cars.
Yep.
And we started putting, as Paul says, I saved a lot of stuff from going back to the early 60s. That's when Paul and I got into this, 63. We were so fortunate. We were here in Southern California at the time all this stuff was going on, and we were here.
You can tell the story real quick about you guys going out to buy a car and what you set out to buy and how you ended up. That's a good little story.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, our dad died very young. He was 48, and we were just kids. And so it came time for Paul and I to start driving. Matter of fact, I got a driver's license at 14 because our dad was gone. And so as kids, we were out looking at all these cars and thinking about hot rods. And this one car was a Dodge, a 426 with the dual carburetors offset.
Super stock Dodge.
Right. We opened up the hood, and here's 2 black marks underneath the hood, you know, where the carburetors would backfire
Backfire.
and stuff like that. Well, the good thing is that one of her mother's friends who had a garage went with us looking at some of these, and he's saying, no, 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 no. And we've, our cousin, excuse me, one of our uncles, who was very close to our dad. They had companies together, like Paul and I, very close through the years. He had a VW Bug, a 1955. He bought in 55. And here's Paul and Mark laughing at this little car. And he kept, Uncle Mitz kept saying, you got to go get a Volkswagen. And he said, well, go out to Orange Coast College, just look in the parking lot, and what are you going to see?
Volkswagen.
Volkswagens, right? And so we were at this one day, it was a Pontiac dealership, looking at a Pontiac Tempest that had the aluminum 326 engine in it. 326
Hot rodding again.
Right. And this was on the Coast Highway in Newport Beach. And so we're talking to the sales guy, and on the Coast Highway drives a VW Bug convertible, and some gals are in it, and we're hollering at them, and they're hollering back. And this salesman said, you know what? That's the car for you guys. And he knew about our dad being gone and stuff like that. And so we went over to Chick Iverson, and at that time, the waiting period was 3 months to 6 months. And you would put down what color you want, but a lot of times, whatever
You just
came
take
in,
what,
hey, we got a blue one. You want it or not? Because
That's
somebody
right.
else is going to take it.
Yeah.
And we had our name in at about 3 or 4 different dealerships, and we must have made a good impression with Chick Iverson down in Newport Beach, who then later became our first sponsor. And about 2 weeks later, he calls up and says, hey, I got a black one here. You want it? And we said, we take it. And that first car, we had chrome wheels on it and the fake knockoffs on it. Cost $1,825 is what brand new. Our payments were about $39 a month. And Paul and I were working at the grocery store at that. Well, after our dad died, we grew up literally in 1 week. I had a job, had to pay my way through high school. Paul and I went to a private Catholic high school, so we had to pay our money, you know, for that and stuff. Here, 2 kids at freshman and sophomore doing that. But in working, we worked at a grocery store. So every week we took our paycheck, and the first $37 or $39, whatever it was, that I made went to a payment, that Paul made went to a payment. So we were making 2 payments a week. And so we did that for about, it was a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
And we had it almost all paid off at the end of summer. And then we didn't make any payments for like about a year. And then we killed it off real quick like that. So, but that's how the first Volkswagen came in.
And the die of the Schley brothers was cast. Well, Mark?
Yeah. Well, the last thing, Dan Gurney, who's turned out to be a very good friend of ours. He's a gentleman, Formula One cars, Indy cars, and stuff like that.
Everybody knows that name pretty well.
Everybody knows Dan Gurney. Well, he drove the inch pincher at Nassau in the Bahamas.
In the Bahamas,
this
yes.
is in 63 and then in 64.
Yep.
And the inch pincher actually was Daryl's street car.
That was Daryl Vatone's street car.
The deal was that, as Daryl would tell the story, that his dad was going to give him some shock absorbers if he would give
Car.
Joe owned it. But
Right. But it was Daryl's car.
So we're coming into the Winter Nationals, which is back then was in January, and Nassau in the Bahamas was the December, a month before. And in the LA Times was this article about this car, this Volkswagen that Dan Gurney drove. And it was like, oh, wow. And it was at Impey in Riverside. So Paul and I took one day off of school and drove up to
Went
Impey.
out to Riverside.
Out to Riverside and went in the front door. It's in the afternoon now, about say 3 o'clock. And not having any idea we'd be working there years later and helping run the place. But so we wanted to see that car. And so she called Daryl. Now, Daryl had just gotten home from high school, or back to work from high school that afternoon. And so Daryl walks out, and he's had these glasses on. Boy, I remember how he looked right then. And so we tell him that, well, we're here to see this car that Dan Gurney drove. So we walked around back, and there's a Formula V sitting there, and the lightning or the inch pincher was sitting there.
Right.
And then they had these old sheds along the back where they were making mufflers and exhaust systems. And then where Dean Lowry had his dyno and stuff. And so Daryl shows us this. And the strange thing is that in this Formula V, single carburetor had a rig stuck in it. So he pulls the rig out and fires it up. And all of a sudden, out of one of these little sheds, which is the dyno area, was this gentleman by the name of Dean Lowry. And he's coming out and hollering, shut it off, shut it off. Now, he was worried that Daryl hadn't pulled the rig out and stuff like that. So that was our first meeting with Dean Lowry, was this crazy guy comes running out, who then later was a father figure. And, with Dino Dinosaurs and all the rest of this stuff we did. So that's kind of how we got started in this.
Okay, well, I'm going to save some time for your younger brother.
Yeah.
So we thank you very much.
Well,
Thank you,
and
Mark.
Appreciate the location and where we can have Studio B in the museum.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, no, and thank
anytime you guys want, and people around the world, if you're here in California, you get the chance to come on by, all you got to do is give Paul and I a call, and we guarantee you're going to get knocked over by all this stuff here.
Oh no,
Well, thank
it's
you very
it's
much.
definitely
Thank you.
guaranteed. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're inviting up Paul,
Right.
Mr. Paul Schley. If you would please join us at the Studio B booth, we'd love to talk with you.
Well, I'll tell you, I love to talk with you. It's a hard act to follow, obviously.
No, you need to be in front of the mic. So
But
move
it's a
up.
hard act to follow, obviously. So anyhow, we've had a great time and great relationships with these two over the years. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Paul, may
Yes,
I
ma'am.
may I call you Paul?
You-
You see
As
this?
long as you call me first.
You're a self-proclaimed lover of the Volkswagen, and you know the court would really like to know. Did you really cut one in half, dipping
Yes, yes, we did.
it? Could you please explain how one
All right.
dips a car in half?
Well,
Does
we,
that show up there? Perfect.
I being the engineer from Loyola, always looked at the best aspects to make a car go faster, and one of which was to make it as light as possible. And we were in the
So you wanted half a car? Is that what we were
Well,
doing?
Actually, I think the front half would be better than the back. half,
Probably,
but the
yeah.
motor was in the back, so I
Oh, there's
needed
that.
both
Yeah.
halves.
Okay.
We
Okay.
always said we'd trade 100 pounds for 10 horsepower
Oh
any
my
day of
God.
the week.
And that's actually true.
Yeah.
So tell us more about
Well,
this
so
dipping.
Our class was 8 pounds per cube. And the biggest motor at that time was with 92s and 82 crank, which would be a 2180 cc with 133 cubic inches. And at 8 pounds per cube,
You do the math.
133 inches, 1,064 pounds, which is pretty light to make a Volkswagen, as we all know today even. And so one of the things we heard about was the acid that would remove thickness of the steel. And we found a place in Huntington Beach out in the oil fields where they had a tank full of the acid. And we signed up to go there, but the tank being round, the diameter, we couldn't put the whole car in at once. We could only put the front half in, hanging from a cable. And we let it go a certain amount of time so that the acid ate 50% of the metal away. And we took it back out, turned it around, and put the other half in. We were smart enough to leave a gap of about 5 inches so that it wouldn't eat it twice. However, we were watching the Rose Bowl game, January 1st, 1969, 70, being January 1st, and the wind blew and it shook the car. And as you can see, it overlapped. So as we hold up this picture here, that area where there is no car, it was acided twice. And you're taking 50% away. Certainly modern math, 50% and 50%.
A second time.
Just times two. It's 100%. Yeah.
That was a beautiful car, all kinds of body work done at Chick Iverson, and we threw it in the trash.
Oh no.
We did acid dip the frame, though, if you would, and lost weight on that.
No.
So in conclusion, we had a full steel body. We were able to get the car down to 1,065 pounds through many methods. So we still were able to be right on the weight per cubic inch.
So the one we push around over here, what's the weight on this one?
Well, now, that is another, I think 70 pounds. Yeah, so
It's almost 1,100
1,100
pounds.
pounds.
Yeah.
Because a full roll cage was put in
There you go.
and when it was in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So back then we just had.
Well, I mean, people give such grief to people for ruining these Volkswagens these days. I just really wanted you to explain yourself.
Well, hey, back then, we had well over $100 in body work on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we had to throw it.
Oh no, that's terrible.
I'd just like to just take a moment and go back to what Mark was saying about taking the roll cage out of the car. You realize that today, if you did that with your race car, the tech people would turn you around and say, no,
Yeah.
this isn't happening. Go back and
Well, that was before
Yeah.
you were in charge of tech.
Ah.
This is at the bug-in.
yeah,
Rules, what rules?
yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding.
Well, I mean,
Ironically, what saved his life was a stupid thing to do, but came out for.
No,
the best.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
just
not-
You couldn't do it nowadays.
Oh, no.
but at the same time, it's a fluke. It's the one time that would have happened just exactly like that. But it's not an advocate for taking safety
No,
materials
please,
out of your
please,
car.
Don't
So,
ever do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
More safety is good. More safety is
Back at
generally
him.
good. All right. So we touched on this earlier, but I wanted to talk a little bit about your 20th Street gang. So you've got some really cool people that I've got to meet in the last few years, getting to know you guys. And
Excellent.
you guys used to, you all just were neighbors.
We were.
So you fell into this with your neighbors magically.
And they were young. They were 15, 16-year-olds that lived across the street right next door. Bill Harmon, Warren Conde was across the street.
These are all iconic names now. These were just kids
Yeah,
playing on the street with
yeah, yeah.
Volkswagens.
Lightning bug crew.
Yeah.
They were. And Bill Harmon and Ricky West. We were fortunate and Bob Bennett. Try to remember everybody in my old age here.
How did you guys decide that you wanted to play with Volkswagens together?
Well, they were just walking by and saw us, and we did all this Volkswagen work on our home in 20th Street in Costa Bay. So, and just on the car, and the young enthusiastic kids came up and started being
Hey,
involved.
what are you
and
doing?
We tied them in. Yeah. Hey, what are you doing? And well, hey, take that hammer or take that drill, by the way, and drill a bunch of holes over in there so we can make it lighter. And we're fortunate too. Their parents were very wise, if you would, in that they let us go with us. Can you imagine parents letting their 15, 16-year-olds get in a VW bus and head to Indianapolis, Wisconsin, pulling a
Cross
race
country.
car in a trailer with little 10-inch wheels on it? I mean, it was wonderful that they got to do this and share that. And with their help, without which we would not have gone as quick as we had gone, would not have been as successful as Lightning Bug has been without the 20th Street.
Yeah, you guys became like the super group, right?
And we're still tight
yeah,
today.
yeah. No, and I've met some of the guys actually at Grand Nationals last year. I got to meet Bill Harmon and I just
Warren.
and Warren,
Oh,
yeah.
they got great stories. You want to hear stories? Put Bill Harmon, and Mark together, and we'll be here for
Nobody else is going to get to speak.
You know
So
that.
as a matter of fact,
Oh, yeah.
that brings to mind when you talk about going across country. Wasn't it in Texas or something that you got pulled over?
Oh my gosh. So this is, we actually our motor broke and we had the dinosaur car, and we were pulling it with the Dodge van from Dino Dinosaurs. And when we went there, Mark drove with Willie and another crew member, drove the car there. I was still at Dino's doing some more work, whatever I had to do. And then I flew in and we raced, and then Mark flew back, and then I drove back. So I had never driven in Texas before. So we're going along, coming back, and we're following another race car in front of us along this road and going as fast as he is going. Now, apparently they put a sign speed limit of, I'll make it up, 65 miles an hour in Texas, but it's only when you go into the state. I never saw that. Honest, I never saw that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't
Pinky
Sure.
swear.
driving in. Mark was driving in, and I was driving back. Well, so we're following this car and race car, and all of a sudden, this is so funny. This police officer comes up alongside of us, I know you're not going to believe this, but he put a whistle in his mouth, blew the whistle, and pointed for us to pull over. We pulled
No
over.
siren.
He went up to the guy in front of us and was going to pull him over and let him go. And then he turned around and came back to us. And he had said, how fast were you going? And I said, I think 65 miles an hour. And he said, well, the speed limit is 60 miles an hour and you're speeding. I said, well, I never saw a speed limit sign. He said, well, it's posted when you come in. He said, you know what? I said, that's not fair. He said, well, I'll tell you what, you pull over up here outside of town and we'll go in and see the judge. What? I mean, this is 1970.
We'll go in and see the
69 or
judge.
70.
Yeah.
We'll interrupt his lunch to
So we
come in and
pull-
argue over 5 miles an hour.
Yeah, we pull over to the side. Exactly. And I give Willie all the cash I had, but I kept the $20 bill. And which today is like 100. Yeah, I kept the $20 bill. I got in the police officer's car and we went in to where the city hall was. So I come in long story, kind of short, get in front of the judge and he starts talking to me. And I couldn't understand him.
Now, how old were you?
20. Well,
Early
yeah,
20s?
Yeah, 24.
And what, he had like a Texas accent, you couldn't understand him?
Oh, and a hair lip.
Oh.
Turns out it was imposed because anyhow, I couldn't understand what he said, y'all. And
Y'all.
that I understand. He said, yeah, and he was preaching to me, if you would, about how fast I was going and how it was illegal. And he started talking, and I said, I'm sorry, Judge, I can't understand what you are saying. And the cop next to me says, wait till he finishes. I'll tell you. So he finished his little speech. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said. Well, the officer that brought me in his police car, because we couldn't bring in our rig, which was a VW or a Volkswagen on a trailer, single axle trailer, and a Dodge van was too big of a rig
Oh.
for this town. Don't remember the
Yo.
name of the town. It wasn't a big town. And he said, the officer said, he said to you, you've got three choices. I said, well, what are those? He said, well, he says, you can go to court on this. I said, I don't want to go to court. There's no sign. You can't give me a ticket when you not at least inform me what the speed was. And he said, well, and he said, okay. He said, our first open date is in 2 weeks. I said, well, I can't do that. I'm going back to California. So I'm not able to do that. Second option was, he says, you could pay a fine. I said, how much is the fine? He said, $50. So I only got $20. I can't pay that. What's the third thing you could do? He said, we can do what the judge thinks is best. I guess that's what I'm going to have to do. Before I could even get "do" out of my mouth, a ball-peen hammer hits the tabletop and says very clearly, $20 fine.
Oh my God.
Which you just happen to have.
Took my $20.
He found out what you had
Took me
first.
back to the van. Now we're going down the road and about 50 miles outside this hick town, and I'm pounding the steering wheel. I got pull in to get gas, and I'm telling the gas station attendant the story, and he starts laughing. He says, "Oh, that's the new judge, you know." And he had a shirt on, but you could see the sweat inside of it. He'd worn this white shirt forever. And he said, that's the new judge. And, the old one wasn't getting enough money. And, he told me he had me on radar. I'd forgotten he had me on radar.
Oh.
And there is no radar in Texas. The guy said, no, there is no radar. He didn't even have a radar gun. So that's how.
So you guessed 65. He told you it's 60. He could have any number just to be under whatever you said it was.
It sounds like a lot of stories I used to hear from my off-road customers getting pulled over in Mexico, where you bargain for how much to pay. But
so quick.
Well, I got $20 and I'm
give them
taking it.
20 now.
Well, here's my quick question then. Was that a legitimate $20 bill you paid with?
You've heard my empty story, huh?
Oh, come on. Do tell. People, inquiring minds want to know.
That's a great story.
Well, so as most of you know, whatever, I was the many jobs at MP, and one of which was, besides publicity and advertising promotion, was doing the catalog. Joe Vitone, quite forward thinking, as we all know. Thank goodness he brought this performance world to the Volkswagens. he made his own catalog in-house. He had his own printing press. He had his own staff that made the catalogs. And the reason he did that is that he made each page and kept them in files on a table about 4 inches high, each shelf, not a table, but shelves. And so every day he put together the catalog that he's going to ship out. And it was a catalog that had a binder that you could just clip over the edge of it. So whatever thickness, it would accommodate that. He got a brand new product. He printed the page for that product, and that page was done that day. That catalog that went out that day had the brand new page in it versus having a catalog that's 6 months old.
Right.
A lot of stuff not in it. Well, in that printing area, we had a staff. And so getting kind of to the end and how it worked backwards, I'm in my office, Corky Root, but I'm in my office upstairs, and I've had this call many times, and it comes over the phone there, and it goes, Paul, come to the lobby and take care of this. Oh my God.
Take care of this.
Down the stairs, come in the lobby.
That was Joe, right?
That was, yeah,
Big Joe.
Big Joe giving Paul the call. Love the guy. And so he wasn't there. He just still in his office, and I come in the lobby. Now this sounds phony, but it's really true. There were these two guys. They had white shirts, black tie, black coats, sunglasses, and a black hat on.
Oh,
The Blues
basically the
Brothers.
Blues Brothers
I
came
mean,
in, or Men in Black
I
with a
said,
hat.
Hi, I'm
Yeah.
from the FBI. I go, whoa, yeah. He says, you got a guy named Corky Root working here? I said, yeah. You know, he works in our publishing area, our printing. So I need to talk to him. We need to talk to him. So call Corky out, and Corky's there, kind of shrunk down a little bit in front of these guys. And so as it turns out, Corky, very ambitious he is, he printed some $20 bills. Instead of having the president on that $20 bill, he had the president of Lee Eliminators that owned EMPI at the time, Filter Dynamics, Harvey Braun. So he really wasn't trying to cheat, but it was kind of a comical thing, a $20 bill with the president of Lee Eliminators. Well, Corky that night before was out at his local tavern, and where everybody knows him, knows where he
Making
works,
very good decisions.
making very good decisions. And somehow a $20 bill got passed that had Harvey Braun on it. So the people in the bar, or the main guy, was upset and called in the FBI, but they knew that it was Corky that passed that because Filter Dynamics.
And then he worked with you, and that he had access to your printers, and yeah.
Long story, we got our hands slapped and we're told to never do this again and burn all these $20 bills.
You have any left?
So
That's the
I took
question.
care of that.
That's the question, right?
Our shin's probably salivating.
Is there one of these bills
Actually,
floating around?
We use that money to pay our ad in Hot PW.
So as long as you're still on the witness stand here, we need the MP sticker story.
That was next.
Oh,
Since you weren't.
We have a question.
We have a-
question
Oh.
came in that says, ask Paul about number 48. I don't know if that's safe to ask him or not.
Oh, it is. It is. The number 48 is on our Viper. I mean, it came after the Lightning Bug, and the Lightning Bug didn't require a number. We got a number from NHRA, whatever, our division 7001 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But when we're racing our Viper, and Mark and I always wanted a road race, and besides drag race, and we got a Dodge Viper, and we were racing this all over the United States in the Viper Challenge League, national event, or big tracks all over. Anyhow, you had to have a number. And so we were given numbers as drivers. Mark was number 4 and I was number 8. So we just put 48 on the car. And when Mark was driving, we covered up the 8 with the white thing. And when I was driving, we covered up the 4. Little be known, and later we looked at that and said, man, that's Dan Gurney's number. He had 48 on many, many cars. So
Also Jimmy Johnson.
and Jimmy Johnson, well, he never paid us. We had a number before him. Sent him a letter. He said, Schley, who?
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Dan said 48 was his favorite number.
and it said 48 was his favorite number. So it came to be that Mark was 4, I was 8. and 48 became the number. And that was been put on all our road racing cars ever since.
You didn't want 84?
Well, hey,
Just checking.
senior mark, you know.
Got it. There you go.
And now we race the ZR1 Corvette with 48.
So you were, to finish the story about this $20 bill, you were at MP,
Yes.
and as I, I'm clicking my pen and
Yeah.
interrogating you. What is the story about something about a sticker?
The empty sticker.
Empty sticker. Well, again, Corey,
I know
me
these
promoting,
stories. So
one of my jobs was advertising and promotion. And I made a deal with Joe, Mr. Vitone. I said, you know what? I said, on a Hot VW page, there's 33 column inches. There's 3 columns, 11 inches high. I said, how about you give me $1 for every column inch I get? So when you look at that way, $1, 1 inch, no big deal, right? Well, what I did then was got paid under the table.
not this
cash.
table.
Oh, you're bringing FBI back, right?
Yeah.
You're admitting on international YouTube.
Yeah, I'm part of the locals.
You'll fit right in.
The presidential company for me.
Oh yeah.
So anyhow, I was always working hard, as you would anyhow, as Corey did at MP, to get advertising and promotion with the MP name. And what had happened then is Volkswagen of America, big time, came to Joe, to MP, and says, can you help me do this ad? And the ad was titled A Solid Foundation to Build On, which makes sense. A Volkswagen frame, many things were done.
Mhm.
And they knew with Ampy's connection, we knew of many different vehicles besides drag race and H-gas cars and dune buggies and Baja bugs and such that we could find people to be there. What they did then was rented a big parking lot at the Pomona Fairgrounds
Okay.
for this day. And all I was responsible for was getting vehicles there. They had a production crew that did the promotion, the advertising. They had 2 big semis with trailers behind them that they put white paper over coming down so that it was clear. And they had white paper on the ground and they had the vehicles in front. Certainly I don't know where the lightning bug was, but I had the Anderson brothers big empty sticker on their car. And then all these other cars, Baja bugs, VW buses that had different things. Even the president of Volkswagen of America had a limousine
Wow.
made out of the sand. So there were about 15 of these vehicles, all spaced out just perfectly. And then they had a lift, with the camera guy on the lift, big, expensive production. And then they waited till the sun went down behind these trucks so that there were no shadows on it. And then they had 5 minutes with enough light to shoot this photograph and get the picture. So at the end of the day, because of the sun going down started in the morning, it was all day long. It was done and the advertising agency had the picture they want. They're really happy with the whole thing.
Okay.
So the Anderson brothers went home and the 10 or 15 different people that I got with their vehicles, everybody went home. And thought it was all done and over with. Well, about 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks after that, not ago,
Yeah.
I get that same, Paul, come to the office. From Joe Vitone. I come down to the office and open the door, come in. He looks at me and goes, what did you do? I said, oh, no. What do you mean? He says, remember that ad I got you tied in making? I said, yeah, it came out great. So, well, they're not going to run the ad.
Oh,
I
no.
said, what?
Volkswagen of America.
We're not going to do it after all this cost and everything. And he said, what did you do? I said, well, he said, they think it's an empty ad. What did you do? Well, being the promoter that we all are in that position,
Put an empty sticker on.
I offered exhaust systems, different things to all these different vehicles. Every single vehicle had an empty sticker. Not one of these, but one of these. And so they decided it was an empty ad.
Oh.
And Joe didn't spank me or anything. He just looked at me and says, well, I think you went a little too far. That was the end of that. So
Well, that was quite a production to have it like shot down, but where's that photo now?
We've got some photos of them taking it. I never got the photo
Oh,
of the
curses.
empty ad instead of the
Yeah.
Volkswagen.
Come to the
America ad.
museum, you'll see lots of
Lots and
photos.
lots of you could look all day. That might be here.
Real quick about the empty decal, how you change the colors from the two-phase to the four-phase and five-phase.
Oh, you mean the catalog?
Thoroughly eliminate, no,
The
Okay,
all the
okay,
parts, the
okay,
backings
okay.
of
Hang on. We may have to take this up another time.
All
It's
right,
an
we-
hour
we got
show.
plenty
We're
more
there.
stories.
I just want to thank both of the Schley brothers. And I think what we found out today is that Mark Schley was in charge of charity and all kinds of functions like that. And Paul was in charge of illicit things in the Schley brothers. I'm just kidding. We want to thank them very much.
Very much.
We appreciate them, first of all, allowing us to use this wonderful location
Always.
to bring
man.
you a podcast. And if there is any questions that anybody wants, we'll take a couple more minutes to finish up. But
Thank you very much for
Oh,
letting
my
me
pleasure.
quiz you.
You guys are
Thank
always
you
welcome
for
here.
also for having us here, for both of you being our guests today. And to the point of if you're in Southern California to call you up, I've had the privilege of having my club's like private event tour here. It's a spectacular, very generous event. So please hit them up and we'll be back.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can always get in touch with Amber or Burns
This guy
somebody to
or-
find out our phone
yeah.
number or address.
Sounds good.
or me.
Or Ron Flemdog.
This has been really fun. We want to thank the Schley brothers. We want to thank our media guy, Jeffrey Hicken.
Thank you,
I want
Jeffrey.
to thank our engineer, Corey Ryder. We'd like to thank Shin from Hot VW's Magazine for joining us again this time. And we hope to see you next time. And I'm thinking sometimes in April. Go look on the page. The
Subscribe.
YouTube. Yes.
Be ready for live
subscribe.
updates.
Be a part of this. Be a part of the VW scene and hang out with us.
Yeah, ask some
Absolutely.
questions. We want to answer.
Yes.
Thank
So
you very
do we have
much.
minutes for questions?
I don't know if there's any questions.
We've been firing through them pretty well.
Oh, so
As they come up, and I know that if we go into them, we're going to go down a whole nother-
rabbit
Yeah.
hole.
Yeah.
We want to save some of the show for the next go around.
Where we will have another excellent guest, I promise.
Absolutely. And some of the questions may be on the agenda for future discussions. Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody who tuned in. I did have Ollie Fries sent me a message to say hi to Ron from Germany. And so thank you to our live studio audience for keeping us on our toes, and to everybody who tuned in today. Make sure you subscribe for future shows and have a great day.
See ya.
Bye.